Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. For those who don't know me, I'm Trent Kusters, co-founder and director at League of Geeks, or as folks call us, LoG, and welcome to my home. Welcome inside my literal home. You may see my cat scattering about Vader. He might be running around the place at certain points through this talk. Anyway, look, it's a pretty exciting time for Australian game dev. Looking around the industry and the scene, it seems that a number of you are taking your first steps on a journey that we've been on for the past 5 to 10 years. So today I want to talk about the lessons that we learned while scaling LoG's studio culture from a small, tiny little out-of-hours indie outfit all the way through to a AAA studio of 40 plus people. Now, studio culture is a large topic and quite metaphysical and philosophical in nature, but hopefully by the end you'll be armed with some practical takeaways and maybe even have a little bit of an idea about how right now we all have the opportunity to rewrite the story of the Australian game development studio. But first up, a couple of disclaimers. First of all, my name is on the billing of this talk, Trent Kusters, talking to GCAP, but studio culture takes a village to craft. And so today, everything that you're hearing is the work of an entire studio of talented, intelligent, compassionate, and professional individuals, including those who have come and gone from LoG. In addition to this, we've been helped by numerous folks along the way and in the industry, probably sitting in chat, some of you right now watching this talk. And it would be literally impossible to cite every book, every person, every studio, every talk that helped us get to where we are today. So what you're going to hear is mostly just our particular remix of the great ideas and lessons that have been shared with us along the way. Next, I feel it's pretty important to acknowledge that the privilege our studio is afforded by being helmed by 3 straight, white, cis-het males from middle to upper class backgrounds is not the same for everyone else. While I've taken care to share principles that I feel should hold true regardless of your identity, class, or background, I do understand and fully acknowledge that the mileage of others may vary unjustly. Also, after the talk, we'll be in our live booth that's here at GCAP virtually on the internet. We'll have the details in chat. Our live booth from noon to 1 p.m. AEST with our lead producer Lisi and our community manager Vix, where we can go into far more detail and answer any questions you have about the talk. And we are also in chat right now, including me, which is weird watching my own talk. Hey, Trent. Shout out. But yeah, just say hi in chat and let us know if you need anything. We're here to help. Okay. On January 21, 2021, next year, League of Geeks will turn 10. A lot of people here may know the story of LoG. The founders worked in traditional Oz studios. We created a profit share system. We ran a successful Kickstarter. We formed a studio, launched a game, Armello. We supported it post-launch, released a bunch of DLC, put out a bunch of platforms, and we grew the studio as we did that. But when your 10th anniversary is dawning on you and you're mapping out your company's cultural history for a GCAP talk, a few cultural eras or epochs begin to emerge out of that transition from a small indie outfit to a AAA studio. And so zooming out as far as I possibly can, this is how I would probably define those cultural epochs or eras for LoG over the last 10 years. First up, we have the point system. So from our founding in 2011 through to about 2014. This was when we were that ragtag little indie outfit working with people all around the place, and we had our point system. The next part would be post-Kickstarter. So 2014 to 2017, so through the launch of the game and a couple of platforms, right up until about the next era, which is LoG 2.0, 2017, 2019, where we're in full support mode on Armello, and we're in the new space at Arcade 2.0 on Kingsway. And yeah, wow, a lot of lessons learned in that period for sure, definitely. Big lessons. And then LoG 3.0, so 2019 to whatever the hell year it is now. So, interestingly, the most obvious thing when I look at this is that it actually coincides with when we're in new spaces, new studios. And I mean, that makes sense, right? A goldfish grows to match the size of their pond. Our environments influence our culture. But more than anything, what doesn't come through here, I think, when other people would look at this is that looking at these eras, the things that actually define them are the lessons learned along the way. And when we chose to take those lessons and integrate them and to grow into that next form of League of Geeks. So now comes the part where I try throughout the course of this talk to translate that metaphysical and intrinsically esoteric thing, a company's culture, League of Geeks company culture, with all of you here today. So let's go all the way back to the start. When a company is founded, it's usually founded around a core set of beliefs, whether we know it or not at the time. And when I look back on those first days of League of Geeks, before there was a studio, physical space, there's absolutely things that rung true then that still run through our company today. Pillars of our company. The first one is the point system itself. It says it all. We designed our own profit share system from scratch to share the profits of our work with those involved. On one hand, sure, it's an answer to the age-old question of how the fuck do you make a game with no cash? But on the other hand, most critically, the sense of ownership it instilled in the team proved so effective that to this day, we still carve off company profits and dish them out to the team. It encouraged the team to think about the financial outcome of their work, about how decisions that they and those around them make every day affect our potential success. And why? Because LoG's financial success was their financial success also. And transparency. From day one, there hasn't been a single question that we haven't been prepared to answer. Nothing has been out of bounds. In fact, we communicated everything we possibly could to the team. We built frameworks to do just that. Something we learned from our friends at Valve is that an employee informed of the company's strategic goals, objectives, and current operating position is no longer simply an employee, but another set of eyes and ears alert to any possible opportunity. Good governance. Finance and legals spare no expense. The moment we founded League of Geeks, we went out and we found the most experienced and talented accountants and lawyers in all of video games in Australia. And we paid their bills in full and on time. In fact, for months, the only expenses that we had were exorbitant legals and accounts. But you may wonder how this is actually part of culture. But put simply, business matters. Any culture you build is built upon sand without the security of proper governance, legal counsel, and financial foresight. Also, our finance manager, Olga, is actually giving a talk this afternoon on risk that every studio head and producer should watch. Ambition. Since day one, the ambition was always high. And I'll talk a bit more about this in the next chapter. But people thought we were bonkers. I mean, Screen Australia, when we told them that we were going to ask for 200,000 on our Kickstarter, freaked out and told us to ask for 20,000. We went ahead and raised 400K. Our ambition was always internationally focused, and we never apologized for it. We wanted to be best in class, best in genre, and that ambition attracted people to work with us and inspired them, and frankly inspired us as well. It's still around today. And lastly, the Hydra. Now, this is the nickname for the three founders of League of Geeks who are still around today. This is what the team calls us. I don't think it reflects our management style. It's got to do with our logo, the three heads of the logo, obviously. But that's Ty Carey, Blake Mitzi, and myself. There is no strength without a comparative weakness. No one is perfect. And the three founders who remain at League of Geeks today have areas of overlap that helped us form this company, beliefs we share, all of that. But we diverge in many ways. Working together is not easy. The last 10 years or almost 15 that we've been working together has been incredibly challenging. But the benefits of our working relationship is clear. And there is a mutual respect between us, forged in the trenches at Taurus, that has driven us to trust and lean into each other's strengths whilst accommodating and compensating for each other's weaknesses. It's my belief that this commitment to a professional, candid, and collegial collaborative relationship has formed the basis of LoG's working culture from day one. At LoG, we aspire to achieve critical, cultural, and commercial success on an international scale. We call this the 3 Cs, and it's one of our company's highest values. Critical success is when a game is good, when press, our peers, the public like it. Reviews well, great Metacritic, all of that sort of stuff, awards, whatever. Cultural success is when the medium is stronger for our entry into it. That our collective efforts as a team, as artists, we've pushed at the boundaries of the medium, changed video games or affected the culture in some way. And commercial success simply means that we get to perpetuate our creative independence and live well along the way. I mean, we make no apologies for not wanting to be martyrs for our art. And we want each of these 3 Cs in equal measure. We don't want to make a game that changes the world but sends us out of business or sends us broke. And we equally don't want to asset flip our way into chalets in the French Alps. For LoG, the 3 Cs has proven to be holistically aspirational, which is incredibly important. The implicit ambition of the 3 Cs demands that we think about our work as artists, as businessmen and women, and perhaps most importantly, as cultural revolutionaries. Still to this day, we benchmark our success on that of the most successful developers, publishers, and artists in the world. We seek those who have walked the paths or stand in the places that we seek to occupy in 1, 2, 5, 10 years from now, finding lighthouses or beacons in the dark for each of our 3 Cs. I can't stress enough how critical this commitment to the 3 Cs and its pursuit has been to LoG's success, both internally and externally. This approach to game development has put us on the map internationally, and it's opened doors all over the world. The prime example, had we not achieved the 3 Cs to the degree we did with Armello, we would have never secured that publishing deal with Private Division. I'm sure of it. But let's say you achieved the 3 Cs. What then? I had some friends who shipped a big AAA game a few years ago, 90 plus Metacritic, and we were hanging out afterwards and we were talking about it. Congratulations all around. And when I asked them what's next, they said sequel. And where I expected to see excitement in their eyes, I saw terror. Why? Because they had no idea how they had made a 90 plus Metacritic game. They thought the game was bad. And the idea of having to replicate that success was more daunting than the original task itself. So here's the catch, because there's always a catch. You've always got to do it all over again in a hit-driven business. And if you can't replicate your success, it was always more luck than science. Which means we're not just making a game at League of Geeks. In pursuit of a replicable model for achieving the 3 Cs on each of our games, we're also making how we make games. This larger than all of us objective that sits in the back of our minds every day and colors every conversation we have, every line of code that we write, this holistic aspiration gives us a sense of purpose that is palpable at LoG. Okay, that stuff's all a little meta. The 3 Cs, ambition, all that sort of stuff, our initial beliefs. But what about the day-to-day of LoG? Well, if there was one phrase or mantra for how LoG functions on a day-to-day basis, it would be freedom in a framework. It defines how we lead, how our projects are run, and how our studio is structured. The idea is this, that we want folks to have as much autonomy as possible whilst heading towards a collective greater purpose. Autonomy with purpose, says it on our website. We want our team to feel in control of how they go about their work in what they feel is the best way to approach it. They're the best ones to make the call. They're the closest there, and they're at the coalface. And it's my fervent belief that there is no such thing as flat hierarchies, just visible and invisible ones. By mid-2018, in the midst of LoG 2.0, after we'd moved into the new studio space, it became clear that folks were having trouble navigating the invisible hierarchies of LoG. In just 1 year, we had outgrown the generally flat indie structure of founders at the top and everyone else left to sort of fend for themselves and just throw in. It wasn't working anymore, and something had to be done. After much research and deliberation, and I mean, I'm not just talking about in video games, I'm talking about in other creative industries too, we restructured the entire company, I think at around the end of 2018. We rolled out a new organizational chart, a visible hierarchy, a framework defining the boundaries for each individual to operate comfortably and freely within. In addition, we took the chance to overhaul how our projects were run, instating a game director at the head of the project and an executive producer on their right-hand side. Between them, these two bear the heavy burden of a project's management responsibility and creative authority. Beyond that, on our projects, we have full autonomy across the team, comprised of a series of interdisciplinary, feature-focused, agile teams. We run Kanban, we call it LoG Kanban, of course. Everyone's version of agile is bastardized to some measure. We're no different. Maximum freedom on our projects within a clear organizational structure, the framework, to support everyone's personal and professional needs. Now, I could do a whole talk on this, especially the project stuff, but I'm sure Lisi and I, we'll do that at some point, but we should probably wait until the game's actually a hit. Now, look, put simply, people want to feel respected. That's at the core of this. And ultimately, we all just want to feel trusted and empowered to go ahead and do great work. That's why you hired us. So we extend that benefit of the doubt to our team. When we hire responsible, talented individuals who want to make great things, how can our role as studio founders or leaders be anything other than empowering them with the information and context they need, the tools and resources to get the job done, and any personal and professional support required? After that, all that's left is to really just get the fuck out of their way. You have to earn our mistrust at League of Geeks. Go forth with the team and make great things. Just let us know if you need anything. There was a distinct moment at LoG about 5 years in when I realized that no matter how hard we tried or worked at it, everything was always going to feel like absolute chaos and just be on fire pretty much all of the time, forever. Of course, whenever you remove the biggest rock, there is always a new biggest rock. But by the time development started in earnest on our new project, over 90% of the team had joined LoG after Armello's launch, and most folks post its alpha. The team was used to a very well-defined project. Now asked to follow us out into the dark in search of treasure, unproven grounds on this new project, for which there is rarely a map, just a general direction and the gut instinct, as well as hopefully a little bit of data if you're lucky. The early days of the new project offered very little, almost none, of the day-to-day feedback and reassurance that Armello did. There are some folks who thrive in environments with well-defined goals, objectives, and plans. The type of folks who strive to cross T's and dot I's and call them out when they're not dotted or crossed. Now, you absolutely need these people. But couple these new, strange, uncharted lands with a culture of autonomy, and some people, quite frankly, on the team started to freak the fuck out. It became apparent that for some, our commitment to constant improvement and refinement of the craft was misconstrued as a commitment to ensuring a perfect development environment, free of trouble or anxiety or stress, with every question answered, every problem solved, every pipeline just perfect. But put simply, that's not video games. That never has been video games. Video game developers sit at the intersection of art and science, and for some mad reason, we try to make them kiss all day long. I mean, Blizzard Entertainment was named after how it felt working there. So the answer is to, like Blizzard, embrace that chaos, to find comfort in it. That's why you'll find people at LoG saying daily, comfort in chaos. But this doesn't just apply to technical or creative uncertainty. This applies broadly to cultural change too. A couple of years ago when we announced to our team of 20 or so that we were signing with Private Division and there'd be 50 to 60 of us within a few years, one of the crew, Darcy, rightfully asked, how are we going to ensure that the culture we all love so much won't change? Now, naturally, I promised him right there and then that it wouldn't, and that I would personally see to that. Unbeknownst to him and also myself, I was lying. What I failed to recall in that moment answering Darcy was that the culture would change. How could it not? A decade earlier, almost to the day, I was listening to David Ettery of Spry Fox give a GCAP talk. This is back in the day when we used to let Brisbane host them too. He cited a finding from a Stanford study of emerging tech companies that found changing company culture in any significant way increased the likelihood of a company failing afterwards by 50%, regardless of how positive that change was. I felt so paralyzed, so terrified by the statement that when building LoG's culture, there was only one option. We built constant cultural change into the core of our company culture. We're changing shit up on the team all the time. Hey folks, this process is out, this one's in. Hey, we're logging into this thing every morning. Actually, that didn't work. We're now going to be using a Slack bot for that thing. Whatever it might be, we're keeping things changing up and things shifting all the time. Promising your team that you can protect them from the tumultuous realities of working in an artistic medium that has the added complexity of bleeding edge software development is not only straight up bullshit, it's irresponsible and it's downright dangerous to the mental well-being of your team. Instead, we have to lead with calm and courage in the midst of that darkness, to embrace the chaos of video game development. By communicating that you must, as Pixar would put it, trust the process, you and your team will end up finding comfort in the chaos. Embracing it in your company pillars should inform your processes, which will ultimately shape your daily practices and steel them for those moments when things feel overwhelming. For the treasure you seek always lies in the cave you fear the most. Now, the three founders didn't just come down from the mountain with holistically aspirational meta objectives, empowering company frameworks, and agility, courage, and grit inscribed on tablets. And believe me, we're very much still a work in progress. You'll hear about that in the next chapter. What I realized we'd been building together all these years, more than anything else, was a community. And it takes a community to raise a child, especially when that child is a critically, culturally, and commercially successful interactive entertainment product. And people make product. Over 40 of them at League of Geeks, in fact, with many more to come. And here's the most important part. For every single one that joins our studio, our community, they spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 48 weeks of their year hanging out with us. And even when you ignore the cosmic tragedy of late-stage capitalism's pseudo-voluntary economic servitude in a society capable of sheer abundance, it's still a really intense concept that they would be with us, hanging out with us, making computer cartoons instead of with their loved ones or out in nature or spending time with their family. And that is a responsibility that we take incredibly seriously at League of Geeks. From our focus on personal and professional development, all the way through to our no crunch policy. But the irony here is that in order to deliver on that responsibility, you have to not take things seriously as well. Our vision statement at LoG is that we believe video games can be truly transformative for both player and maker. We believe in video games as a serious force for good. But we also know that video games are bullshit too. I mean, they're wholly unimportant. We could snap our finger, Thanos style, and every video game on Earth disappears, and the world would be fine. We would get on just fine. It would be okay. It's this contradiction, this implicit hypocrisy in what we do, that sets us free, that reminds us to focus on the people, on our community. We're a multi-million-dollar business and people's livelihoods are on the line. So of course there are things that do need to be treated seriously, but anything that doesn't, you better believe no one's having a bad day over it. Also, don't ask me how or why, but comedy seems to be something at our core. Recently, we hired the School of Life to run a company-wide training session on collaboration. I had to warn her that our team were bound to tag themselves on any of the slides that made that even remotely possible. Of course, the prophecy was fulfilled by slide 5. But perhaps beyond all of this, the most important thing to us is food. It started in the early days of LoG when we were just a remote team bringing our distributed team members together for big dinners every few months. Once we had a studio space, it became dumpling lunches for our mellow updates for the team of 6 that was working with us. Now we have Slack channels dedicated to food. Shout out to OT Food Chats. Our LoG family holiday picnic, the great LoG Bake Off. When we signed the PD deal, the first thing we did was immediately take the team out to eat together. Since the dawn of time, eating together has been a sacred and social ritual of peace, vulnerability, and friendship. Breaking bread, as the saying goes. They say that children develop better social skills, have lessened anxiety, and a decreased propensity for violence later in life for simply eating at the family table each night. So it should be no surprise that eating together has been fundamental in building a culture of camaraderie, community, and collaboration. Last year at our annual winter feast, I said a few words before the team ate. I quoted American civil rights activist Cesar Chavez. If you want to make a friend, go to someone's house and eat with them. The people who give you their food give you their heart. You have our heart, I said to the team. Not all of this has been smooth sailing, of course. So how and where can our efforts to craft a great company culture go wrong? Well, for us, in many places, and often, every day in fact. Perhaps one of the scariest moments for us was 2017, a year that went down as our best, but also as our worst. As an independent developer and publisher, we've always had every conversation and reviewed every opportunity that's hit our inbox, something we've prided ourselves on. But post Armello, we learned the valuable lesson of focus, and we learned it the hard way. In 2017, we released 2 DLC packs, 5 major updates. We doubled the team size. We moved studios. We developed a free-to-play version of Armello for Android and iOS. We rolled out retail copies of Armello worldwide. We negotiated a multi-year merchandising deal, exhibited Armello in 4 continents, and we also conceptualized the title now signed with Private Division. Cracks were showing all over the team. Certain initiatives like the retail deal and our mobile release were questionable in their success and utterly disastrous in the distraction they had caused. What they don't prepare you for when you have the kind of success that Armello has, that high-profile success, is that success begets opportunities, and opportunities by their very nature distract. And those distractions can be fatal. Since this realization, we have become experts at saying no, zealots of razor-sharp focus. In just the time since we've signed with Private Division, I'm strangely proud to say that Ty, Blake, and I have said no to literally over $100 million worth of deals. I mean, that's no big pat on our back. There's a shit ton of really weird money floating around at the moment. But why wouldn't we say no? We have the goose that lays the golden egg in our hands. Theoretically, we just need to stick the landing on this game with Private Division and deliver on our commitment to the team to scale effectively and responsibly. That's all that we need to focus on right now. And this razor-sharp focus is critical. In his book, Essentialism, Greg McKeown noted that the number one reason why Silicon Valley startups fail was a lack of focus. And for us, we figured that the more attention that is spread, the less attention we have where it matters most, on our team. After signing the PD deal, things moved very fast at LoG. We knew they would. We had 2 teams now. We committed to doing everything we could to not have an A-team, B-team mentality. But in the end, we just accidentally did everything it takes to guarantee an A-team, B-team mentality. Our failure to successfully scale to a multiple team studio was so rapid, so earth-shattering, the repercussions so grave, that we're only truly recovering from it now, a year after the realization. The challenge of a multi-team studio proved so distracting and difficult that we've since kicked it 3 to 5 years down the road. The shift from the incredible individualism of small-scale indie dev to a team mindset was one of the realities of scaling that we were naive to, admittedly. As some folks' paths diverged from the broader teams, we lost people who felt like LoG's beating heart. But we believe that people join LoG to make great things. And once they've done that, if they want, then sure, we'll fully support them in going on and making great things elsewhere. Because ultimately, we don't just want to be a great place to work. We want to be a great workplace to be from. Another thing that seemed to affect us as we scaled was those of us who carried the trauma of our industry's previous chapters. Incompetent leaders, abusive co-workers, rampant misogyny, Machiavellian politics, bulk firings, and cancelled beloved projects. This trauma is still alive and well today, and frankly, it's something we talk openly about at LoG. Because just like the past trauma we bring into our romantic relationships, we can absolutely bring our past professional trauma into our new, improved working environments. The remedy to this, people acting out past traumas at LoG when there was no need to, was something that we never expected. But again, we need only look to building healthy relationships with those we love. The answer was clearer, firmer boundaries, with well-defined expectations and honesty. You see, in our drive to be the most understanding and autonomous workplace, as empathetic as possible, we'd been practicing what Kim Scott calls in her fantastic book, Radical Candor, ruinous empathy. By being empathetic and accommodating to almost everything that came up with our team, we were indulging near-term empathy, but at the cost of ignoring the long-term implications. It wasn't even their feelings that we were scared of hurting at the end of the day. If we're honest about it, it was our own. From a young age, we learn not to hurt people's feelings, but ultimately, we all want someone to call us on our bullshit when the need arises. For many, that's how we define true friendship. Saying to those diverging from our path that we would help them move on. Being empathetic yet clear with folks when they let their colleagues down. Or even reminding those acting out their past professional trauma that we understood and empathized, but ultimately their reflexive behavior wasn't necessary or would be tolerated at LoG. And of course, inviting the team to extend that same courtesy of practicing their own radical candor on the leadership team too. Because above anything else, when scaling from a small indie outfit to a studio of 50 plus, I guarantee you that the greatest challenge and where you will absolutely fail the most is always going to be leadership. I can trace every single failure we've experienced to a failure in leadership. Because ultimately, when you're sitting at the top, it's never not your fault. We get things wrong. We're human, just like all of you. I have the initials for work smarter tattooed on my hand to remind me of the time that I lost $250,000 of the company's money. That's absolutely a fun conversation to have with your business partners. Do not recommend. In fact, one time we had the definition of direct report so wrong that if you went through all of our employment agreements with the team and traced reporting lines, that technically Grace Bruxner was the CEO of League of Geeks. And ominously, she had changed her Slack title to CEO just a few months earlier. But look, problems arise all the time. Like I've said, that's video games, that's life. But as Blake once famously said at LoG, we only ever seem to be dealing with new problems. So things must be getting better. So what are these new problems? What are our current biggest rocks now that we've scaled from this small indie outfit to 40 plus people? With still more to go. But what are our current cultural bugbears? Top of the pops, straight off the back of that last chapter, is being better leaders. Honestly, this is a major focus of ours. We owe it to our team and those about to join to continue to grow as leaders, and there's a lot of room for growth at LoG. I could give a whole talk on leadership and what we've learned, but I don't have to because Emily Poissonneau, our lead designer, just happens to be doing just that, giving a talk on leadership at 2 p.m. today, and likely better than I could too. So check it out. Another one is diversity and inclusivity. I'm proud of the diversity of our team and the inclusivity practice every day at the studio and the work that we put in to get there. But it's not enough. There is always work to be done in this area. And with 3 straight white male founders, especially so for League of Geeks, it's something we take very seriously. Next up, feedback and candor. In a recent leadership workshop we held, our senior staff were polled on what they felt their key weakness was. Having difficult conversations came out in front. And I mean, yeah, same. This is a key focus for us and has been all year. Because as a friend once said, honest feedback is a favor. Without it, the world would have terrible chefs and even worse lovers. Accountability. If anyone's figured out how to pair up agile autonomy and data-driven accountability for video games, I want to hear from you. Come and talk to me after the talk. And lastly, here's a funny one to share 3 months before your 10th anniversary. We're a new team, effectively making our first game. Look, we went about things in a real weird way for our Mellow. And now, as we scale, there's a whole bunch of new faces working on a new game together for the first time in a completely different way to how we worked on our Mellow. It'll be fine. We're going to trust the process and we'll make another great game. But building that trust, that cohesiveness is something that's improving and is a process day by day. And it's super fun as well. I mean, we're having a ball. Now look, there's a lot more. I didn't go through and list every single problem that is actually facing our culture right now, but the message is clear that stuff is hard. And even after being around for 10 years, it can still feel like it's your first day running a video game studio or building a culture. And you're constantly learning and you always will be. And so, hey, we'll be around in chat after this. Feel free to reach out at any point in time to talk about this stuff. We're always down to chat. Okay, so that's a lot, and a lot of it is largely philosophical. So if you haven't been taking notes, now's the time to grab that pen, because here are the takeaways. First up, find your studio's soul. Identify the core set of beliefs behind your motivations to form a studio and make video games in the first place. Lean into the ones that can be found through every step of your journey so far, because they're the most honest compass you will ever have. Share in the spoils. Every quarter, if there's profit at LoG, because there isn't every quarter, 20% of it gets carved off. 15% goes to the team, 5 to a charity or causes of their choosing. Don't just hope your team feel invested. Ensure they literally are by having them share in the financial success. Business matters. Any culture that you build will be built upon sand if you don't have proper governance, sound legal counsel, and financial foresight. Finances and legals, spare no expense. Freedom in a framework. There is no such thing as flat hierarchies, just invisible and visible ones. Make yours explicit and make it as light a touch as possible. Autonomy with purpose is the goal. The 3 C's. It doesn't need to be the 3 C's for you, but just find a purpose that is holistically aspirational and inspiring to others that could take a lifetime to achieve. Then never apologize for it. Find comfort in chaos. Embrace the chaos of video game development and support your team in doing so themselves by remaining calm and acting with certainty in times of uncertainty, even if that's simply saying, I don't know, and that's okay. People make product. Take that responsibility seriously. The surest investment you will ever make is in your talent. People are happiest when they have a community and the opportunity to feel valued within that community. This isn't new. We've been doing this for millennia. Beware ruinous empathy and embrace radical candor. Practice honesty and immediate constructive feedback with your team. Choose your mutual long-term success over short-term emotional remedies. It will always be on fire. Tragically, if you're doing things right, there will always be problems. Just make sure that they're new problems. Pillars inform process, which informs practice. By understanding your company pillars, values, whatever you want to call them, and reinforcing them with your team via robust processes, over time you will shape daily practice. More is caught than is taught. Success is a team effort, but as leaders, failure is never not our fault. Lead by example. Always. The greatest gift you can give anyone is your attention. Most people just want to be seen and heard. It's a normal, natural human want. You'd be amazed what can be achieved by doing nothing more than simply listening. Build a community that laughs and eats together. Honestly, I think this is the most important thing you can do to ensure the longevity and the health of your studio culture. And lastly, unfuck the world while you're at it. We've given hundreds of thousands to charity, social, and cultural causes. If we're all just going to make video games for a living, I'd say we have a moral responsibility to do something about everything that's going on right now. Okay, lastly, with LoG's 10th anniversary around the corner, I'm feeling a little bit sentimental, so I'm just going to say a few words about where we are and how important the coming decade will be for Australian development. As an industry, we reach for the GFC as a national crush for what we are. And like all trauma, it has defined us. It took us a decade to rebuild something worthy of international attention in its place. We have an independent scene to rival any in the world. But now is the time to put the trauma of what came before behind us. As small indie studios move on to their second, third, fourth titles, it is only now that we have truly begun to rebuild what was here before. And we have a chance to succeed where others before us failed. Australia's game development scene of the past was filled with spectacularly talented developers and atrociously ill-equipped leaders. With the local industry having found its footing and as studios like LoG, Mighty Kingdom, Sledgehammer playside a more scale to sizes not seen since the mid-2000s, and overseas investment returns to the region in big ways, the upcoming chapter of Australian game development, just like the last, will absolutely be defined by the quality of our leaders. And it starts with ensuring that above and beyond everything else, we build resilient, successful studios with world-class cultures, communities with purpose, where our teams feel valued, facilitated, and empowered to do their best work instead of fleeing the country in droves. A local industry where innovation isn't measured by our proprietary engines, but the diversity and inclusivity, of our makers, where rampant misogyny and glass ceilings are a thing of the past. But as we scale these studios and these cultures, we mustn't forget what gave us this opportunity: the world-renowned community and resilience of the ANZ scene. To build a truly robust development region, and I'm talking Australia and New Zealand, we need a full ecosystem. As Brendan Keogh of QUT and friend of all game developers put it in an article last week, building a sustainable and successful video game industry requires a multi-pronged approach that nurtures the whole ecology. Creatively driven artists that are the local talent, business-savvy entrepreneurial startups with the ambition to build larger Australian-owned studios, and the massive but fickle foreign-owned studios that provide little creative freedom but much greater employment stability and opportunity. Business-savvy entrepreneurial startups with the ambition to build larger Australian-owned studios? That's us. That's you. The rest of the ecosystem already exists. And right now, even with the world as weird as it is, the signs are good if you're looking to build a studio. Our partnership with Private Division signals the return of major US publishing to the region. I know of local deals from other publishers that haven't been announced yet too. Speaking of US publishers, Sledgehammer's forceful arrival has the chance to be one of the best things to happen to the region in years. We now have a major US publisher bringing Australian developers back to the region. I mean, what a plot twist. And this is in what I imagine may become the vanguard of AAA in Australia. And talk about a hub for the development of younger talent, especially when the talent in-house already is so electrifying. And even without their work on the South Australian PDV offset, which is the best funding news since the AIGF, I don't think the crush that I have on Mighty Kingdom and what they're doing over there to rewrite what an Aussie studio is or can be can even be measured. Huge shout out to Phil and Co over there doing great work. And of course, for all that we owe the GDAA, and there's a lot, we're already seeing huge benefits from its merger with IGEA, like this great conference, and centralizing our interests nationally. Honestly, I could go on, and I'm so glad that I can. I mean, I haven't even mentioned the New Zealand scene. We have a real opportunity here. The best I've seen in all my years in game dev, which haven't been spent overseas. They've been here in all rungs of it. So please, take this opportunity. I want to inspire and encourage you to be ambitious. Find where and how you want to succeed and think big. Bigger. Okay, now even bigger. Set your target, then lean on us. Everyone here, and those who have come before you. Together, we can make our ambitions a reality. Fuck the failures of the big Aussie studios that came before us. Fuck tall poppy syndrome. Fuck the GFC. Banish it from your vocab. Let's leave the collective trauma of our past behind and celebrate and challenge each other to rewrite the narrative on Australian game development. We've been making games with heart, and we've been making games together for the last decade. Now is our time to build studios with heart together. Thank you.